Welcome to the Nate KG podcast, a show dedicated to exploring the nuances of jump rope, where I talk with jumpers of all skill levels, backgrounds, and fitness goals. In this episode, I have a chat with longtime jumper Billy Wildi at Billy T. Wildi on Instagram and YouTube. I've technically known Billy digitally for over 10 years, as we both used to create and post jump rope videos on YouTube when we were first learning our skills. We haven't ever chatted over the phone before, so this was an extra fun conversation getting to discuss the old days with somebody who shared a decent portion of that time with me. We chat about so much in this episode, including the early YouTube network of jumpers, changes in training over the years, Billy's favorite skills, frustrations with jump rope, and a bunch more. As usual, the show notes can be found over at natekg.com. And now, please enjoy this conversation with Billy Wildi. Billy, thank you for being on the show, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
I'm really, really excited for this conversation. And just for a little bit of background, you and I have been technically chatting. Well, we did start chatting about 10 or so years ago. It's been a long time because we used to go back and forth on YouTube in the very early days of all this jump rope stuff, you know? Yeah, it's been pretty wild. So let's start with a little bit of context. So where are you in the world and where are you from?
So I am currently in London, which is where I am working. I just started a new job. I am originally from Kent, which is just in the southeast, so just like an hour outside of London. Yeah, my mum used to, my mum still runs her own business. She set up her own gym around like 2003, and then she gradually expanded that over the time. And yeah, so the place that, you know, you would have seen me jumping in my videos was always kind of like in my mum's like own little created business, which I kind of just turned into my own little jump rope studio.
That's really cool. So fitness has kind of always been a thing for you then?
I guess sort of. It's certainly something that I've always been surrounded by. My mum was obviously like super into it. That's why she set up the business, because she was, you know, interested in being a personal trainer and liked the aspect of helping people achieve their fitness goals. I mean, it resonated certainly more for her than for me. But yeah, I guess it was quite central when I was growing up.
So what types of fitness or sports have you done and have you tried out?
Yeah, so interestingly, I guess when I was a kid, I was not a super and even when I was like a young teen, I was not a particularly athletic person. I was like probably like the second or third slowest person in my year group.
Oh man.
My grade. Yeah, I was not good. I was not good at like many conventional sports. And I tried quite a lot of them. I mean, when I went to my secondary school, it was a big, I know you guys don't play much rugby, but it was a big rugby playing school. And I would have to, that was something that was compulsory from like the age of like 11 to about 15. So,
oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, 2 terms. So 2/3 of the year we would be like how to play rugby. And I was just, I remember thinking when I was 11, I think, oh yeah, this will be my sport, and then just sucking ass at it. I don't know what the level of swearing you permit is, but I might occasionally curse.
Whatever you want to say, yeah, totally open. That's funny. So,
yeah,
so you were getting crushed in rugby. Did you still enjoy it, or were you just not having it at all?
Yeah, I don't really remember. I think at first I enjoyed it a bit, but it was something I definitely wasn't looking forward to by the time I was like 14 or 15 in my last year, and I was kind of done with it. And I got like a bit of I chipped my tooth a little bit when I did it once. So
okay.
It wasn't great. I think it's not the greatest thing to have to do for such a long period of time. Other things I tried, I got reasonably into tennis when I was about 13 years old. And I'm not an especially strong tennis player. It's like that's the sport that I've done the most without gaining a sufficient level of proficiency in it, but I still have a huge amount of fun when I play it. And I've had like a few friendships that have often just kind of like centered around me playing tennis with that person like over and over and over again. And that's something that I still like to do a lot. Yeah. Then other than that, I mean, other than the skipping, it was mostly when I was a teenager, I was pretty into long distance running for a while. I did it with my mum initially and some of her friends, and when I was 16, I ran a half marathon. And then
Wow.
kind of after I'd done that, I was a bit like, I think I'm good here, and I kind of just didn't really do much long distance running after that, which was kind of a little weird because it was something I had done a lot, but I guess I just didn't feel like I had the motivation or I had some goal that I wanted to get to, and it just kind of like lost its appeal to me.
What was it that drove you to do that running? Was it having that long distance goal, like you just said? Like, did you want to have a goal in front of you, or did you just naturally enjoy the process, or what was it exactly that excited you?
I think initially it was a social process. So I would do it with my mum, I would do it with some of my mum's friends, and it was something that I would, although, these people, the people I was running with were generally a lot older than me, I quite enjoyed that social experience of it. I didn't tend to run by myself very much. And then I kind of signed up for this half marathon, forgot about it for a while, then realized it was coming up and trained up a little bit for it. And then, yeah, because my mum got a knee issue, she stopped running, and I'd kind of lost the community around it. So there just wasn't a lot of incentive for me to keep on doing it at that point.
What did your training look like for the long distance running?
I mean, what was I doing? I mean, I remember that we would generally like get up just early in the morning on the weekend, or my mum and I would, and we would go for runs usually go out for runs early in the morning. When I was really into it, when I was like, I think probably around 11, 12, 13 is probably when I was the most into it. I remember I would occasionally like get up super early, like at 5 during weekdays, and do a run before school. But I don't think
That's a lot of dedication. Wow.
Yeah, I don't think it lasts a particularly long time, because once you get to like 13, 14, your body clock starts adjusting and you just can't hack the 5 a.m. starts anymore.
For real.
And you're just like, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah, I mean, when I was actually doing the half marathon, I didn't train super hard. As I say, like I kind of like forgot about it a lot, and I did a few practice runs and a practice 10 miles. I was like, well, if I can do 10 miles, I can do 13. And my experience of actually doing the half marathon was it was actually easier than the training, because when there's a bunch of other people running, you can just find someone who's like going about your pace and just kind of follow them, as long as it feels comfortable. So that makes it kind of a bit easier for me.
And then at what point did you find jump rope?
So I discovered jump rope properly when I was 15 years old, I think in 2009. So as I said, I used to do some workouts occasionally in my mum's gym, and I was starting to use jump rope as a bit of just like a warm-up activity, because it was something that I found to be, pretty engaging, which is like how a lot of people, I think, end up starting it, at least for fitness reasons. And I'm someone that's always had a like, by that age I'd like grown like quite interested, I guess, in a lot of my activities, like kind of like trying to do little tricks with things. And I basically Googled it. I was like, this seems like a thing where you could do some neat little tricks. And I went on YouTube. Maybe I saw. I think I went onto a jump rope website. Maybe it was like buyjumpropes.net, and they had a video of someone there who was doing a routine. Which now that I've like seen it again, it's not like a particularly amazingly difficult one. But I remember seeing it, I was like, this is super cool. I would just love to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So I bought a jump rope. It was like a very heavy weighted one, because I didn't know anything about what I was buying back then, but I kind of started learning tricks. And after I'd learned like a few of them, I put up a really, really low quality, like basically unviewable video on Facebook, just to kind of show off to people that I knew. And it kind of like grew from there.
Yeah, you then started to post a whole bunch on YouTube, right? I'm actually on your page right now. I'm in front of a computer, and I'm staring at your YouTube page, and I can see all of your stuff from 9, 10 years ago. and it looks like you're in a gym. Is that gym that's on your page your mom's gym?
Yeah. If you see a gym in the videos, it's my mum's gym. I was pretty much exclusively jumping there. There was an outdoor area which I kind of in the more like the 2011 videos I'm using a bit more, but yeah. I mean, to start with, it was all in the kind of gym room, and I would often just do it after it closed, because it would close quite early on the weekend, so I could just film some stuff around then. The first video I uploaded onto YouTube, I think I think I deleted the first couple because they were just like really bad trick compilations when I wasn't very good. But I kind of had, I guess, a bit of a breakthrough towards the end of 2009 for a couple of reasons. One, I did a trick compilation which I called like Skipping Montage 3, Skipping Montage 1, and Skipping Montage 2.
Heck yeah.
Have been deleted because I can't stand to look at them.
Oh, you should have kept them up, man, because I watched those and I was like, this is awesome. I dig this, because at the same time you were uploading those, I was also uploading YouTube for the first time, which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I released another video in 2011 where I actually showed the first video I'd uploaded to Facebook. So
yeah, you've got Skipping Montage 3 here. I can see number 3 on your YouTube page. Yeah.
But that's like the oldest trick compilation that I did, and I got like a pretty good reception for that because I'd actually, I think, progressed beyond like a very basic level and was doing some mildly interesting stuff. But also at the same time, towards the end of 2009, around November, was when I started releasing my first tutorials. So I did a tutorial on the EB and a tutorial on I think it was probably the Kruger maybe, and those just got I mean, I remember like being at school looking at them, and I was like, wow, this is like 700 views, which is not a lot. But at the time, it was like, no one was watching that one. I was a nobody teenager, and it was like quite cool. And I was like, well, people seem to be watching this, so I'll try and make some more of them.
Yeah. And now they have 39,000 views and 25,000 views. So those have done well over the years. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
They're funny to look back on. But I mean, the reason I did it in the first place was because I was gaining some familiarity with what the trick names were and seeing people doing them just by going on YouTube. I remember I found like really old website, probably doesn't exist anymore, but it just had kind of a bunch of trick names, and you could just click on them and it would show you like a 10-second clip of someone doing that trick. So that was kind of how I built up my knowledge of the vocabulary, the language of jump rope, essentially. And I just was a bit like, I can't find many tutorials that teach me how to do these tricks. I remember like Mike Fry did a tutorial on how to do the toad and how to do the caboose in like 2008 or 2009. And I watched that and I learned that trick. And I'm like, why aren't there more of these tricks, more videos that are actually telling people how to do things beyond just like a cross and a double under? There was really just nothing out there. And I was like, well, if no one else is doing them, then I'll have a crack at making these tutorials. And yeah, it kind of progressed from there.
Yeah, and you started to put out a bunch of stuff, and your skills got really good really fast. What were you doing to train? You were just watching people and then just trying to emulate it? Is that what happened, or did you have anyone around you that you jumped with?
No, I always jumped alone. Okay. It was entirely like self-driven, and yeah, it was very much a process of, to start with, as I say, like trying to find those like individual clips and replicating the tricks. As I got a little bit more advanced, what I would often do is I would get videos of people doing routines and try to just like replicate certain aspects of people's routines. So I remember I found like a bunch of videos from like the 2008 jump rope championships in South Africa, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yeah, so that was like a really good like resource for me, just like watching those and seeing what people were doing and trying to copy and replicate those tricks.
When you watch those videos, were you looking for anything specific? Did you have a certain way of breaking it down, or was it more just learned by osmosis?
Yeah, I would definitely, I mean, I think you kind of have to a lot of the time just kind of pause and slow things down and move things back in order to understand them, particularly when you're starting out. And I think this is one of the kind of interesting aspects of gaining ability in any kind of sport like this, where people are doing intricate skills, is that as you get better at them, you can start to kind of immediately see the difficult skills that people are performing and kind of register that. But when you're like, don't have the knowledge of, the hand positions and where like the rope is, how many times it's going under, then it all kind of just looks like a impressive blur of tricks together. Like if you do just, for example, just a T-toad versus a toad, it just doesn't look any really different. It just kind of looks a bit awkward if you're not actually familiar at all with what people are doing. So that you kind of gain that it's kind of fluency, I suppose, over time, which means you need to break it down less. But even then, you see someone doing like something that just looks very complicated, or the movements are very fast, and you still need to pause and slow it down and play it back.
Yeah. Were you talking to anybody through YouTube at that time?
So I think I probably started engaging more with the YouTube community around, it must have been in 2010. So I remember there were a couple of guys, a couple of years younger than me. I think they had a channel called the Cross Jumpers. And
I know who you're talking about. Wow, this is about to be a real fun trip down memory lane. keep going.
Sure. So yeah, it was two brothers called Harry Cross and Sam Cross. I have no idea if either of them are still jumping. But they actually sent me a message on YouTube, and they reached out to me, and they were like, we like your stuff. We're trying to do our own videos, and we started a bit of a conversation on there. And they were the first people who like reached out to me. And it was as a result of talking to them that I went to. So in 2010, I went to the British jump rope national competition.
Oh, cool.
There was like a novice category, so I participated in that.
Did you compete a freestyle routine or speed, or what events did you do?
Yeah, I did all of them. So I did. It was there was a speed, a freestyle, and what was the other one? I think they had just a 3-minute speed and a 30-second speed in the freestyle.
Did you do well?
I mean, in my first year, I was in a novice category where there were I think 2 other people competing, and they were fairly beginner, so I was able to win that fairly easily.
Yeah.
I competed again in 2011 in the national category. I didn't do super well. I mean, part of the problem is there's a couple of problems. Firstly, I just don't like speed at all, and I've never really had a particular incentive to train it.
Fair enough.
This is just as a kind of side note. It always seemed like a little bit strange to me, and kind of like a sign of the infancy of the sport, I suppose, that I mean, at the time, this maybe has changed a bit since then, but at the time it was kind of expected that you would just compete in all 3 categories.
Mm-hmm.
And you won by winning in all 3 categories. And that seemed kind of bonkers to me, because the skills involved in being a really fast jump roper are very different from the skills involved in being a really good freestyle jumper. So, in the same sense that like synchronized swimming and speed swimming are different sports,
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the same kind of distinction should probably be true of jump rope, and there should be. I mean, I'm sure people do specialize, but yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's something that I'm not sure if you've connected with Selena Furman yet. If not, I'll definitely send you her information. But she and I have discussed this at length, because when you actually get into the research and the specifics of training for an athletic sport, training for an event that lasts 30 seconds versus 3 minutes versus a minute 15 max is so different, like you're saying, and your body just responds much differently. That's why you don't see too many jumpers who, actually, I don't know if there's really any one jumper that easily can take all 3 of those categories, because they're just way different on the body.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously there are people who could do all of them, and I think, they should be able to do all of them, but I don't necessarily think that should be so much the norm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So getting back, I guess, to the connections. So yeah, they were the first ones I kind of connected with. I would have connected, I think, probably with Dylan Plummer
Mm-hmm.
around 2010, 2011, probably next. Um, I don't remember exactly. That was probably just as a result of like commenting on each other's videos, and
Yep.
we just kind of like would usually just be, I guess, encouraging to each other. And I probably started talking to you about the same time, which I imagine would have been early 2011 or so. And I don't remember exactly how that happened, but I do remember coming across your stuff. I think just because I would often just kind of hunt around for what other people
Yeah,
were
and
making.
that's such a perfect word, hunting around, because all of the jump rope stuff that we see today that's on Instagram, effectively what people are doing on Instagram is what was happening on YouTube, but way, way, way smaller. And you had to
That's right.
try so hard to find a new or different video. Every time I would go look for something, I would end up finding the same videos I had seen 10 times over and over and over, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, absolutely. And I would often just be trying to apply the filters to try and get recent content that people might have uploaded. But yeah, that's so true. And quite frankly, like I mean, what I would often just try to do is I mean, competition routines tended to be uploaded
Hmm.
quite regularly, so just
Yep.
Google something like jump rope freestyle, whatever year it is, to try and get the most recent stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, even now, I think one of my frustrations is just that if you just do a YouTube search on jump rope,
Hmm.
what you get is just a bunch of very ripped, shirtless, hairless men uh,
You're not
doing
wrong.
some fairly simple skills with just
Hmm.
like hundreds of thousands of views, and I'm like, I don't know, that's like a bit strange to
Yeah, I mean, it's
me.
just a
Yes.
different, it kind of reflects A, the gap of understanding, and B, where people's priorities are in terms of the mass understanding of jump rope. You know, jump rope is a good exercise for boxers and for people who are doing general fitness, which is not untrue, but there are many layers deeper than that. Like you're saying that you could also explain, which I agree. I would definitely like to see a lot more of a representation of what you can fully do with a jump rope, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to go on a little further, I guess it's not that, I think it's great that there's a fitness community who are into jump rope. That's like fantastic. It's good for people.
Hmm.
Like, and I wouldn't want to discourage that. But just like the consistent framing, I guess, of the kind of videos I've seen where they're just like these like utterly muscle clad men always jumping with their shirts off with really heavy ropes, which they
Hmm.
like endorse quite heavily, which I'm just like, I'm not really sure what the evidence base behind recommending heavy ropes off people, and I could see some obvious dangers in doing that. But also just like it's so like it's kind of like they've upped the masculinity to a huge extent to compensate for the fact that they're doing a sport which quite frankly is seen by many people as something that's done by little girls. And that is just like,
No,
it's not
100%.
funny to me, but
Well,
yeah.
and there's a couple different points there too. Like on the point of a heavy rope, a lot of the stuff that I've come to learn over the years, working with the company that I'm currently at now, heavy ropes are super useful, and I actually enjoy using them for the purpose of fitness. And I've actually come to expand my understanding of jump rope since the days you and I used to talk on YouTube, and it's been really exciting actually blending that fitness aspect in, because it kind of, the way we're talking about opening up that knowledge of jump rope to what we know to be jump rope as the competitive side, I've actually stepped backwards and gone from the competitive side and looked at how to apply it to fitness. And it's been really, really exciting. But to your point, I do understand what you're saying, where recommending a super heavy rope immediately is not always the best. I think that approaching it with a mindset of versatility and exploring every different facet would probably be, or I believe is the kind of the best way to go when it comes to explaining jump rope, you know? But yeah, you definitely do kind of need to counteract that whole jump ropes for kids on the preschool, lot, basically just jumping in their free time, for sure.
Yeah. No, honestly, I'm open minded about that. I mean, the problem with a lot of this, I mean, it's a problem, I guess, in sports research in general, that it's not always the most high quality. But I
Hmm.
feel like actually there's just not. I mean, understandably, there's not a huge amount of research that's done on jump rope. But I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not sure it would be the best use of someone who's very skilled in research to focus on. But it would be super interesting if they did. So
Yeah, we actually
yeah.
did at the company I work for, Arcs Market. We did a little bit of preliminary research, and I can't quite talk so much about it yet, just because I don't know what the finalized results were. But we did compare a lot of different types of ropes, and there were a lot of noticeable changes in
Oh,
terms
that's
of
super interesting.
yeah, in terms of like exertion and how the body reacts and what types of fuel is being used. It was really cool. So when that comes out, I'm definitely going to be sharing that. But it was pretty fascinating.
Great. Yeah. Let me know when that comes out. I'd be really interested to hear about that.
Yeah, no, believe me, it'll definitely be a public thing I put out because it's I think I'm pretty sure it's relatively the first of its kind in terms of really taking an analytical approach to jump rope, but I could be wrong. But I'm curious, kind of to double back real quick. Did you ever talk to Cebu on YouTube as well, Cebu Soto?
Oh yeah, of course. I completely forgot about Cebu Sodu.
I feel
Yeah.
like there was a network of a bunch of us early jumpers on YouTube. Like I feel like there was like a YouTube network, including Lee Reisig too. Lee was on there for sure.
Yeah, he definitely had a channel. I never directly interacted with Lee. But I mean, I'd seen his videos. I knew he was super good. I would try to copy his stuff all the time. I remember like someone from the British jump rope circuit. I think one of like I can't remember who it was, shared like a video of a trick that I landed in 2011, and
Oh, really?
Lee posted a comment where I think he'd like released a Trictionary thing that was trying to kind of atomize different bits of the jump rope process and assign
Oh,
letters to
yes.
different rope positions. But yeah, he left a comment on that saying, like, giving a breakdown of that, and he was like, cool. And I was like, yes, Lee Rising said a nice thing about my video, which felt
Right?
really good at the time.
I can totally
Because I was
understand
a
that.
fan.
Yeah, he did do so he did here's my understanding of how this breaks down. I think that Lee did an original version of a Trictionary, which was very complex. And I remember downloading what it was, and I never fully was able to grasp the entire thing. And then I think within a year or two ago, Dylan also released a Trictionary, but closer to what you had described earlier, where you see a skill,
Yeah.
you click on it, and then there you go.
Yeah, I've seen both. Yeah, I remember reading through Lee's one. I thought this was a really cool idea, to be honest, but it's obviously quite a lot of work to actually
Do that.
engage with the system. Yeah.
As I'm looking through your page and we're talking, I totally forgot about putting up montage videos because that was the thing to do 8, 9, 10 years ago, was to put together all these tricks that we would work on for weeks and weeks and weeks and like release that. That was
Yeah.
so exciting, just jumping in the backyard and stuff.
Yeah, those are my favorite ones to do. I had a friend in my who lived in the same village that I grew up in, who's he's a bit of he's a whiz in like photographing and editing and
Mm.
stuff like that. He doesn't really do that like professionally, but it was just as a hobby. He was like great to have around. And every video I had that was like actually decently edited was because I hadn't done the editing and he had done the filming and the editing. So he did some of my more viewed montage videos, but those were always so much fun to film, and I really liked that.
So how did you end up connecting with Chris and Bobby?
Yeah, so it was pretty random. Chris just dropped me an email around September, October time, and he
Hmm.
was like, "Hey, I've come across your stuff. I'm a jump roper in the UK. I'd be interested in connecting and having a conversation."
Hmm.
I was like, "Well, this is interesting." So I had not really uploaded much at all since 2014.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still jumping when I had the opportunity. It was just once I'd moved out of my parents' house, it was always just very, I mean, we can all, I'm sure, have relate to this problem of just like finding the space, a good space that isn't gonna fuck up your knees,
Mm-hmm.
and is just going to be somewhere that you can go without disturbing other people. It was just always really hard. So I'd had like lots of little tries of trying to do new content again, but never really managed it.
And going to university and college really just changes everything that we knew about jump rope too. Like, because we were so, at least I was really used to getting home from school or practice and then going straight to the backyard or straight to the gym and then practicing for 2 hours, 3 hours straight. And you go
so much free time when you're a teenager. It's just, it's a massive change.
Yeah. And it took up all of our free time in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty happy. I'm super happy that I did that. And even just like the process of building an online profile is, I think, an incredibly useful skill set.
100%. So anyway, you're talking about meeting with Chris?
Yeah. So he runs a monthly training session just north of London, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm holding this pretty soon. Do you want to just like come up and join us?" And so yeah, I went there. I met up with him. And it was super exciting because like I hadn't actually talked to someone who, you know, kind of knew the language of jump rope since I had been to a couple of events in 2011 when I went to my last competition. I went to a workshop in that year as well. But even though I was still active for a couple of years after that, besides the conversations I was having on YouTube, no one was really talking to me about that. So talking to Chris was just like incredibly strange. It was a bit like I'd like learned this foreign language, and I was finally by myself when I was finally meeting someone who could speak it. Yeah. And the studio was fantastic. It was a big studio, high ceilings, wooden floor, and just like felt really good to jump in.
I like that. Just to hit a quick pause, I like that the first two things you noticed about that place was high ceilings and wood floors, because every single jump roper, those are the first two things that they'll look at, is how tall are the ceilings and what are the floors like.
Oh, it's such a big deal. I just I started a new job and they were like, yeah, there's a gym in the basement, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. And its ceilings are shockingly low. They have a pulley machine with a pull-up bar on it, and the pull-up bar is actually touching the ceiling, so you just can't use it at all.
Oh my gosh,
this is insane. This is utterly unacceptable. But and I remember even my in the videos which you see me in the room with the black floor, that's kind of the main area of the gym rather than the studio. I've really, you won't see this in any of the videos, but I've really fucked that ceiling up just by whacking it with my rope, or occasionally releasing a handle, and the handle just goes into the ceiling and leaves a bit of a hole in it.
Oh my gosh.
But the marks are still there.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So getting back to Chris, we did the session there. I then met up with him in his hometown in Kent, not too far from where I grew up. We just did a bit of a jump rope session together at the park, and he said, like, particularly in the new year, he's quite interested in potentially doing some collaborative stuff. And I went to another session with him on Sunday last week, and that was where Bobby took a picture of me, and then he just messaged me and was like, yo, people are reacting to seeing you just at the side of an Instagram photo. And I was like, oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, you're like you're a celebrity in my eyes, because we were all there in kind of like the early days before most people kind of jumped on this. I'm really pumped that you connected with Chris too, because he's such an uniquely positioned dude, in that he's seen all of this competitive style stuff that you and I know, and he's blending and adapting it for people who come from a fitness realm, you know? And it's really fun in terms of, like, if I was to catch you up on speed to say, per se, with what has happened since the YouTube days and now, is that there's such a larger community of people who want to do all these things with jump rope, all these skills, who want to meet up, and everything that we knew then digitally has now exploded both digitally and physically. And I'm really pumped that you guys are chatting, and it sounds like you're going to be doing some collaborative work.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, no, I mean it's really cool to just start engaging with this stuff again. And yeah, I just wasn't really active on Instagram. I mean, I didn't have an account. I never really used it. I knew other people were using it, but I was like, I don't really take many photos. I'm not sure Instagram is for me. But I guess just kind of finding out that this is actually where where people are actually sharing the stuff that they're doing is just like kind of changes the calculation for me.
Yeah, and I hope to see you posting new videos and their stuff too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I was filming some combinations today, so I'm actually going to be uploading them pretty soon. Probably they'll be out by the time you release this.
Sweet, I'm pumped. Let's talk about nailing a jump rope skill. I'm curious if there's one or two skills that you can kind of draw on in terms of memory, and can you describe kind of what it felt like when those skills clicked? Because I know that there's many skills that we train that seem to just not come along easily, and they are really tough to get, but then once you get them and it clicks, I'm wondering if you've felt what that feels like when you finally get a skill that comes together.
Yeah, I think that's tricky. I mean, every like new trick you land is like a pleasure. I guess you're talking about situations where it's not just like you get a little better and you get a little closer, but something like kind of mentally clicks for you in terms of like how the trick works. Nothing's coming to my mind right now, but maybe we'll come back to it.
Yeah, we can double back to that. So has anything changed with the way you trained jump rope then versus now? Do you approach it any differently? Is there anything that you've changed, or are you picking up kind of where you left off, or if you left off in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I think the amount of jump rope I was doing over the past 5 years or so has been it's been basically good enough to more or less maintain my skills. I can't do a lot of power skills as well as I used to. My knees and my wrists just don't like it quite so much. And that's one that where having the right kind of like floor really does matter.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of like differences in how I train, I guess it's not super different. I mean, I've always been someone that has been much more interested in focusing on fairly small pieces. So I've tried several times to make up routines, and I've occasionally had to do like a few little performances. But I mean, especially doing that kind of work by myself, I just would often not find it like super motivational. Like preparing a routine is like exhausting, because like just trying to do that kind of continually without a break is very difficult. So I guess like the main difference is just that I focus on doing the bits of jump rope that I now find fun, because I'm not I mean, back then I was maybe a bit interested in getting more into the competitive side, so I was often doing a lot of things that I just wasn't finding that mentally engaging or enjoyable. I'm much more interested in just focusing on getting new tricks, like landing new combinations that I think are kind of interesting, and just trying to be a bit creative. I mean, ultimately, I mean, one of the main valuable things about jump rope for me is that it is a form of exercise that I really, really enjoy. And me enjoying that is just when I can make that not just a form of exercise, but also a bit of a creative process. So I don't drill super hard. I jump for fun these days, and that's how I like it.
So do you show up to the gym and then do you do a warm up? Do you kind of ease into your skills, or do you just start going and see where you end up? I'm curious what that session kind of looks like.
All right. Yeah, sure. So I will usually start with, I won't go like fully hard straight away. I'd usually start off with just doing a few jumps, some simple crosses, a few releases to get myself a bit warmed up. I don't stretch, because I don't think stretching is a good idea for your exercise. And it's kind of incredible that that's such a common practice still for me. But yeah, so I just warm up by doing, essentially, once I'm warmed up a little bit, then I will usually use the energy I will have at the start of a session to do something, either power or multiples, usually not both, because those are just super tiring, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I will basically try some new stuff with those, or refining some old stuff that I was doing. And then when I'm a bit more tired, I might move on to doing some kind of like cross wrap release variations, which are a bit lower intensity to do, and you can kind of like practice them for a longer period of time.
Have you ever felt frustrated when you're jumping?
Oh yeah, constantly.
What kind of skills have frustrated you?
Various reasons here. There's a couple like just related to kind of injuries. Like I have, since like 2011, I developed a kind of bit of a chronic front knee pain, which I've actually kind of seemed to have managed to manage quite effectively now. With I have a brace, and I haven't actually felt any pain with the jumping I've been doing recently. But in 2011, 2012, it was getting quite bad at points, and I was just like in incredible pain if I was trying to do particularly difficult multiples. And that was really frustrating, because around like that period, I was, I think, getting some of the most like interesting quadruple, quintuple stuff. And I was just like, my knee can't actually hack this level of intensity. And that was really frustrating for me. And kind of a similar note to the power skills, like my wrist, I don't think my wrist has an injury, but it just does hurt faster after I've done a few power skills, and I just kind of run out of just pass a threshold at some point, and that's frustrating for me.
Yeah.
I mean, frustrating skills, I've constantly had problems with TS behind the back crosses.
Yeah.
Behind the knees are fine. TSs have always been a frustration for me, particularly in like when people do TSs in quads. I'm like, I just cannot do this. I cannot even, I can't get these as triples. I can get them as doubles maybe, but they're just not tricks I enjoy. They often just seem to involve me disproportionately hitting myself in the face.
Yeah, I agree with that. TSs have always been one of my Achilles heels as well. Those are rough.
Yeah, absolutely. And then other than that, I mean, that's the one that would
really stands out.
Come to mind. Yeah. I mean, one other one, I guess, is just on the kind of the power note. I've kind of, when I haven't been jumping for a while, I always just lose. The primary thing I lose is my ability to do my best power skills, and it takes so long to recover that after a while. So it's just like, I haven't done a Sunny D in a while. I can't do a Sunny D again. Need to practice that. And then, I can't retain those skills very well. I can get them, but I can't retain them. And that's very frustrating.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, the power skills definitely, those just require so much consistency, like you said. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
What, has jump rope taught you anything just by doing jump rope? Have you learned anything from jump rope?
This was a question.
So
I'm personally a little skeptical about how, I mean, I think skills can be transferable, but I think that transfer just doesn't happen automatically. I think it's something you kind of have to do actively. I don't think actually, I don't think I learned much from jump rope besides how to jump rope and how to be good at it. I think I actually learned more from the process of actually making videos and sharing content and building up a bit of a brand and an image. And I think actually one of the most important aspects of that was, I think that when I was 15, 16, 17, one thing I was actually really good at, which I got worse at, but then didn't realize this was actually a problem, was that I was really good at just releasing a lot of content in those ages and not worrying too much about the quality of it. And I think that being a creative person, fundamentally, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to avoid the temptation to produce your best work and only your best your best cuts, because you don't actually know what stuff is going to work and what stuff's going to click and what people are going to enjoy. It's much better to focus on the quantity of what you output. And I think that maybe, I'm not sure why at 15, 16, 17, I seem to understand that. And then between the ages of like 18 and maybe 22, 23, I was much more perfectionist and was always like feeling frustrated about any attempted like content I would produce and not being willing to share it. And yeah, I think you just got to kind of like keep doing it. And, you know, that was definitely a lesson for me.
Yeah, we definitely share that. I feel like I've done the same thing. And I think a piece of that is A, because you become a little bit more perfectionist, but then B, I started to do photo and video professionally for work. And I think once you've kind of set that benchmark for yourself, it's very hard to just start releasing things like you're saying, just go. It's a hard thing to kind of remember. But you're totally right. I totally agree with you. You just have to start putting things out and kind of see where you land, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, if it clicks and people like it and you do well and you want to do more of it, you can always try and get people to help you out. And that's what I did. Like when I was making proper stuff, I got my friends who knew more about it, video editing, which is just not something I'm very good at or super interested in, to help me out the bits that I was less strong at.
Yeah. What was your favorite skill back in the day when you were jumping a lot? Or sorry, let me clarify real quick. You never really stopped jumping, right? I always assume people kind of stop jumping when they go and, you know, get a real job and do all that stuff. But like, you never really stopped jumping, did you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I had periods where I didn't jump very much for quite a long time. But I would say actually I've been more recently, I've been relatively good. In 2018, I lived in a place which had a gym in the residency, and it was a place that I was able to practice a bit. I was doing a master's course last year, and I was able to book my college's squash courts, and squash courts are
cool.
Unbelievably good places to jump rope.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh, well, this is a really good idea. I can actually have a place where I can practice. No one can see me. I don't have to worry about bouncing anyone. And hardwood floors and high ceilings, obviously. So it's kind of perfect. So I was able to actually do some practice there. I was always intending to film there, but like doing the master's degree just took a lot of time. And also there was lighting issues as well when I tried to do some test runs. But yeah, sorry, I've lost focus.
Yeah, no problem. So what's your favorite skill? And let's do this. Your favorite skill back in, let's say 2012, 2013, so a while ago, and then favorite skill if it has changed today.
Yeah. 2012, 2013. I was definitely getting really into my power skills in 2012, 2013.
I feel like you and I really had a similar come up style. I feel like you and I were training in a similar way and getting very similar styles of skills around that time.
Yeah.
You know, at least I remember it that way, you know?
Yeah, that sounds plausible to me. I think one of the tricks I was most psyched to land and get on video was a one-handed Sunny D.
That's awesome.
2013. And I was just like, oh, I'm so happy. There was like a video where I got like a bunch of like really like probably like my best like power session that I've ever had on film, where I had like a one-handed Sunny D. I had a push-up to a double under AS, which is a trick I'd like been working on for a long time. I can't even do these tricks anymore, but it just felt really good to be able to get them. So I was pretty psyched about my power skill level at that point.
I remember back
like
in
Dragon Ball.
I remember, yeah, for real. I remember you just feel like you're powering up. I remember that same feeling when I would jump in my backyard around that same time. I think one day I had been doing a lot of double under frogs, and I was feeling really comfortable with them. And then I remember one afternoon I was just in the backyard jumping, and I thought, like, I wonder if I could do another rotation. And I remember trying a triple under frog for the first time, and like I freaked out the first one because I was like, wow, this is terrifying.
You do that.
Yeah, but after throwing the rope and having that first bad rep, I was like, wait a minute, this is actually potentially realistic. And so I went and kept trying it a couple more times, and I got it. And when I hit it the first time, I remember standing there like, I can't believe I just did that. And then I started texting like 5 different people. I'm like, yo, I just did this. And then half of them didn't understand what jump rope was, so they didn't really get it. And I was like, whatever. But like that feeling was super cool. You know, the backyard days, I like to call it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like if it hadn't been for the YouTube community, that's part of the motivation. Like every time I was landing a new thing, it was like, oh, this is something I can share. So, I mean, because I never had the competition aspect, that was kind of like always a bit my motivation. Because, you know, when you do something, you always want to share it. And I can't like share this with my friends because they don't really understand like what's the difficult part. I actually had that's so relatable. That sounds, I probably could have told you the same story about when I think I landed the triple under frog for the first time. It's like,
it's exhilarating because you have to have so much hang time in the air that you're not really sure how it's gonna feel when you land. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so true.
I remember you and I went back and forth at a certain point. I think it's when we were doing the jump rope challenges, because there was a period of I think a month or two of jump rope challenges where we would put out a challenge and then gather a bunch of people's responses. And I think we were doing one with is it the Martin caboose, where you're in a caboose and then or is it it's French caboose.
The French trick, right?
Yeah, French trick. And then we were going back and forth on doing multiples backwards out of that. And I remember seeing you doing like a backwards inverse TJ out of the French trick. And I remember being in my backyard trying that for a while. I was like, wow, this is tough. And it was really fun to like do that. And back to your point about the YouTube community, if we hadn't had that around, it would have been totally different. Totally different.
I remember that trick because I know I landed it. I also know that as I landed it, my knee hit myself in the face.
Oh, no.
And it was... I think in my video I upload it, I just like stand up and just like yell "ow." If I remember correctly, I actually think that's one I only ever got once, which on the camera. I don't think I've tried it again since then. But yeah,
that was a really, really tough skill, man. Yeah, that's so fun thinking back to all that backyard jumping. And the interesting part of it too is like I'm usually in San Diego. That's where I live full time, but I'm actually currently at home looking at my window at the backyard that I jumped in 10 years ago. And it's kind of funny to have this conversation at this moment, you know? It kind of makes it a little more fun. Man, this has been so good. I kind of want to come to the big question of the podcast here. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but I'm curious, what is jump rope to you? You can take it anywhere. You can take it anywhere you want.
Yeah, this is a difficult question to answer. I mean, first and foremost, it's a hobby. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious, and it's probably true of a lot of people who engage in the sport. It's an activity we do for fun, and you know, as I've kind of already said, it's a source of fitness. But I kind of just go back to some of the stuff I said earlier, but what jump rope is to me, I think more than anything else, is was the first activity I really had as a notable creative outlet. Mm-hmm. And whenever I've been kind of trying to make stuff and be creative in other domains or like publish my own work, I've kind of always had that model in my mind that, you know, this is creative work that I've done before, and I would try and replicate that to some extent if I could. Certainly what I'm kind of interested in doing now, and I guess like to be a bit more like my old self in that way, and I'm certainly trying to work on that. But yeah, definitely it's primary thing for me is it's a creative outlet that also is something that I can share with, well, in some senses, the world, in a more narrow sense, the people that happen to come across my YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that answer. I definitely understand where you're coming from. What do you do professionally now? Do you do creative work?
So I just started a job as a researcher at a think tank. So
okay.
I'm in a situation. I've only been there for just finished my second week. So, but I am going to be in a position where I'm going to be writing like quite a lot of blog posts, and I'm pretty interested in trying to write more and publish more things, and definitely advance my kind of like academic / work career a little bit.
Do you feel like creativity plays a role in that job position?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And I think in terms of the making output, not obsessing over where it's perfect, and just focusing on making sure you get out, a lot of stuff that you're just about happy with, rather than a little bit of stuff that you think is perfect, is absolutely the same thing. And yeah.
Interesting. Well, this has been such a great conversation, man. I want to definitely be respectful of your time, but thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. It's really enjoyable to talk through this with someone who's in the know.
And we're definitely going to be having more chats about this in the future for sure. I'm really, really excited to see all your posts and see what you do with Chris in the coming year. Yeah,
absolutely. It sounds like you're working on some really interesting stuff. I mean, obviously you've been asking me most of the questions, but I have a lot that I'd love to hear more about from you at some point.
Definitely do. We'll definitely be connecting offline for sure. 110%. Nice, man. All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and then we will catch up at some other time.
Great. Thanks so much.